Hi guys, it's Kian. So today I'm back with another story time since you all seem to like the previous one that I did on how I got my first doll. So today's video is on my Volks Korea trip. What happened when I went to the Volks store in Korea, the doll I bought, which is not this one. And yeah, so earlier on you should have seen like the big doll bag that is used to hold a doll box, where basically that's what I got when I bought the doll. And I also wanted to show you guys this Volks membership card that I got, which is now probably useless because the Volks Korea store doesn't exist anymore. But this is the membership card that I got back in 2014. Not membership card, member point card. So yeah. So unfortunately, I don't think the Volks Korea store is still there. At least it wasn't when I went again in 2019. But yeah, let me just take a sidetrack and just introduce you who's here today. So this is Danny. He's a Volks Olivia Morgan head on a Volks SD17 body. So the doll that I'm gonna be talking about that I bought in the Volks Korea trip is actually no longer with me. That was Ellie, my Volks SDGR Lovely Dress Tay, which I've since sold. You can watch my declutter video if you want to hear me talk a bit about her. But yeah, since I no longer have her, I brought out the only other doll that I have, which is like fully Volks. So yeah, just bear with his face, I guess. Yeah, so let's talk about what happened when I went to the Volks store in Korea. So a bit of context, I was in Korea in 2014 for like 3 or 4 months because I was on exchange. So I studied at one of the universities there for a while, and we actually went to Hongdae, and that's when I saw a BJD signboard. I don't have a picture of it, unfortunately, but I saw a BJD signboard on like one of the buildings, and I was like, what is that? So I had something to do the first time I saw it, so I couldn't go in. Then on another day, I decided to take a trip down to see it. But apparently, because my memory is a bit foggy, because I was on exchange, so we did like a whole bunch of stuff. Like there was a bunch of friends that I went with, so we went around sightseeing quite a bit. So I don't fully remember what happened, but on the day that I went to Volks Korea, I think we went out for brunch in the morning. And then we went by to Iwa's Women's University, I think. And then at some point, I think we parted our separate ways, and I finally went to Hongdae again to go to Volks. So it's on the second floor that time when I went. And as with all the Volks stores, even the ones in Japan, I think, they will say like no photos inside. So I don't have any photos, and also I think I didn't take any photos, even of the outside, because there was nothing to see. So unfortunately, I do not have photos of the inside of the bookstore, but I went in, and it was a relatively, like, it wasn't a big store, but it wasn't a very small space either. It's quite similar to how like the Volks stores in Japan look like, which I don't know how useful that is as a comparison if you've never seen it, but it's quite open. Like you can see that there are various dolls on like some tables displayed on stands, and then like they hang the clothes on the racks, and the racks are leaning against the walls, if that makes sense. So basically you can kind of see through the whole store. It's not like there's a lot of tall shelves hiding things from your view. And initially I was just in there because I just wanted to see all the physical doll stores that I could possibly find, because there's none of those in Singapore, and I just wanted to soak in the vibe, so it's like. But when I went there, obviously I started browsing through the whole shop, so I'm pretty sure I went through everything. They have a lot of like Dolphy Dream stuff, which obviously since I don't own any, I wasn't very interested in. And then the part that I zoomed in on was the clothing section and the shoe section. And I was mainly looking at like the SD13, SD17 size clothing stuff because I think that's what I own. I think at that time I owned mostly SD13 size boys and some girls. So that was mostly what I was looking at. I did buy some SD17 size clothes because I did have 68 cm tall dolls at that time. So I was looking at both types of clothing. And I'm not entirely sure the order of how everything happened, but I'm pretty sure that I initially had no plans to buy any dolls. So I think what I did was I bought the clothes. I bought like, I think 2 sets of outfits and I think 3 pairs of shoes or something. I can't fully remember because I do roughly know what I bought from Korea, the Volks Korea store, but I went there like more than once. I went there once more before I left on my exchange. So I'm not entirely sure what I bought on the first trip, but I'm pretty sure that's when I got the members point card because the first time I paid, that's when they signed me for this. Actually, I think it is a membership card because I remember filling in a form where I had to put in my name, my address, that kind of stuff, and I put in the address for my school dormitory at the time. And I think while I was filling in the card, that was when I was asking the club about FCS. Yeah, I think that's what I started with. So I wanted to ask about FCS because at the front of the store they displayed the dolls that are the limited edition dolls that are available at that time, and I think at that time there wasn't any SD17 boys that I was potentially interested in. Like there wasn't many boys to begin with, and like for example one of the dolls that was available was of course the lovely dress Tay. Like that was on one of the posters at the front door, but other than that, there was like nothing much that I remember because I wasn't that interested in any of the dolls that were available. There was like the SD standard models, like the 3 girls that were available at the time. Yeah, so I got to the point where I actually considered FCS, full choice system, and even tried to ask the store clerks with my practically non-existent Korean at the time. I think they spoke a tiny bit of English. I can't remember what I spoke, but like it was enough to communicate, like asking how long FCS would take, and it would take basically. So I think FCS in Japan, if you just order like the standard stuff, not the Sato only stuff, it usually takes between 2 to 3 months, but because Volks Korea is not in Japan, so it would take like 3 to 4 months or something like that. So it was basically a timeline that was like reaching the end of my exchange program. So I was like, it's too risky, and also I didn't really want an FCS doll that much, so I was like, okay. So I think at one point I actually paid for the doll clothes and stuff, and then I left. And I stood outside the poster that was at the front door for a while, where they're advertising what were the limited dolls that were available. And I was like, this lovely dress Tay looks pretty cute. So Tay wasn't like my, like if I'm just on the secondhand market, I would not have bought Tay, but I think the temptation of being able to buy a full doll in a physical store got over me, and I went back into the shop and I asked to see lovely dress Tay. So the store clerks were actually very nice. I think there were like 2 of them. They brought out the doll box. So it was like the actual doll box, and then they handed me gloves. So I could actually look at and handle the doll. I can't remember whether I wore the gloves. I don't think I did, because I felt very embarrassed about it. Like I felt like my hands were not that clean, and I was like, So I don't think I wore the gloves to touch the dolls. But the store clerks did wear gloves when they're handling the doll, and then they brought her up to show me what she looked like. Like she had her full lovely dress version face up, and her eyes were glued in and stuff like that. Right, so then they were showing it to me. And I don't remember how exactly, but I must have bought her because like that's what happened. So I think after they showed me like the magic of seeing a doll in person just like came over me, and I was like, yeah, I have my I have my debit card, so I can technically pay for her. And that was like very early on in my trip, right? And I knew FCS wasn't an option, and I guess I just really wanted to buy a doll in a physical store. For timeline purposes, this is actually the first time ever that I've bought a doll in a physical store, because like my trip to Platina, Switch Platina, was much later in like 2018, I believe, and then 2019 again, where I did buy dolls, but that's like much later. So this is like the first time I've been in a physical doll stores. No, I think it is literally the first time I've been in a physical doll store, because like the Volks Japan stores that I've seen were like slightly after that. It was like late 2014, towards the end of my exchange. Yeah, I took a trip to Japan after the Korean exchange. So I think it was just the excitement of being in a physical doll store for the first time. And then I bought Lovely Dress Tip. So that was that, right? We should be fine. Like I can just buy a doll and then go home after that. But I think my friends had plans on that day. We might have made plans. I honestly do not remember. All I know is that I was really excited about the doll. I was holding her, and then suddenly I realized, oh crap, I have to hold this doll, have dinner, and go to see the Namsan Tower. Like, she's heavy. You know, so the part that I can't remember is really whether I already had dinner plans with my friends. I suspected not, because I don't think I would have bought a doll on that day if I knew that I was gonna be lugging her around for like a few hours that night. But then again, right, I can also fully believe that I could have been so excited I forgot about plans and just bought the doll and only worried about the weight afterwards. So it could have happened either way. I don't fully remember, but I remember that moment when I suddenly realized that I have to bring her around everywhere, that I was like, this was not a good decision. So anyway, what happened? I do not remember dinner. But I remember I went to Namsan Tower with my friends. And I do not have many photos of it because obviously I think it didn't make sense to take photos of me holding my doll bag, but also like I think my friends, whenever we did take group photos, they were trying to keep the doll bag out of the picture. Probably because it's weird, but I do have like a tiny bit of like it showing in some of the photos, so I'll put that in. But I regretted my choice of buying a full doll, even though Volks was very nice and there was this bag which obviously saw at the start, so it helped to hold. Like I wasn't holding just a box like I did with Gabby when I brought him back from my group order manager, but holding a doll in a bag that is huge and like more than 2 kg, walking around as a tourist is like a really bad idea if you can't already guess. So because it's a very long box, people knocked into me and I felt very bad. I was like hyper cautious of trying to make sure that the box wouldn't get dented, or like, you know, the doll basically wasn't harmed in any way. And like I don't know, it's like the box is just a cardboard box, it's not that hard, you know. So I was really worried about people knocking into her. And then so I did that for like the whole journey through the subway from Hongdae to Namsan, and then afterwards we went on a bus that went up the mountain halfway, I think. So there was still like another walk up, and it was hilly, so I was basically walking on an incline holding this huge heavy doll that just got heavier with time. And then we went up the tower and we did like, you know, we saw the stuff and then walked down, looked at the area with all the hard locks and stuff like that. And the whole time I was holding my doll, and like the whole time I was just like I had to tell my friends like, oh yeah, I just bought a doll, like that. Yeah, I just casually bought a doll. But obviously they were a bit like, are you crazy? But not so much because they knew how much the doll was, but because like it's like, why would you bring this huge luggage around while you're trying to sightsee? But I have no idea what I was thinking at the time. So, fair enough, it was my fault for bringing like this huge doll around and trying to like make sure people were not knocking into her. But it was also really tiring for me because I was like trying my best to make sure she wasn't getting damaged. And I think I couldn't really enjoy being a tourist because I was like so worried that she would get hurt. So I think because of like this whole incident and story, I actually kept Ellie for a really long time, even though I wasn't like the most interested in the Tay sculpt as a doll itself. Like I tried keeping her and like tried to make her work, but I think it's the fact that I didn't like she was not my first choice of a sculpt to own, but the fact that she happened to be available to buy at the time and the excitement of the night, buying a doll and being all excited and stuff led me to keeping her around for quite a long time. Even though I don't think the sculpt was really like my top choice. So after a while I did ended up selling her. But I still think it's a very memorable trip, and I'm actually surprised that I still have like bits and pieces of memorabilia from that time, like the doll bag, because I've already sold Tay, right? So obviously I sent her to the new buyer with the box and stuff. I didn't realize that I didn't send the doll bag with her, and it completely slipped my mind that I still have the Volks Korea membership card as well. And I also realized afterwards that I have all those like Volks bags, like plastic bags, which are now kind of gross because they're a bit yellow. It just says Volks. Right, so I have no idea why I still have these bags, but I guess I do. So anyway, I actually do really enjoy Volks as a company, and I really like their resin to paint on. I painted Danny's face up like twice, I think twice, and then I did like Ellie, like my Volks Tay's face up once, and I've also painted Volks doll once for face up commission. So I personally really like the Volks resin for painting. And I like the solidness of like the heaviness of like Volks dolls. So yeah, like ideally the Volks Korea trip would be better if it could have ended with me buying like a male doll that I like more. But I think overall the experience is really, really, really fun, and like the experience of going to a physical store and buying a doll has always been something that I wanted to do. So it made sense that was what I did. And I guess like the tourist, being a very failed tourist trying to protect her doll was just an extra side quest, I guess. So that was my Volks Korea trip, and I hope you enjoy hearing the stories. It's kind of all over the place because I don't fully remember this as well because so many things happened that night, and there was like so many touristy plans that I made with my friends that I kind of forgot about until I look at pictures. Yeah, and unlike like me buying my first doll, it wasn't fully like something that I planned for from the start, so like I kind of forgot a lot of like what happened exactly. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's story time, and I'll probably still do the other one about how I first found out about dolls, even though it lost in the poll on what's the next story time video to do, but I'll probably still do that at some point. So yeah, I'll see you all next time. Probably not with a story time video, but I'll see you all next time.